Hey, Daree, great to have you today. I want to start off with just getting an idea of who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks, Joshua. I appreciate you asking me to come on. I'm like, oh, who me? You want advice from me? So anyway, I'm a UX writer slash UX copywriter. Our job titles are just so fluid, what they mean. But I'm currently contracting with Comcast as a UX copywriter, is what they call it in the title, slash content designer, whatever you will. And I started last year, 2021, after leaving a 22-year career with basically the same employer, doing technical writing. So I have a lot of experience with technical writing and have seen how things have changed over the years, even though I was in one place because they changed the names. There were a lot of mergers and stuff over the years. And I'm also a freelancer. I do some content strategy and other content design work. And I also freelance with UX Content Collective, which you may have heard of. They offer a lot of UX writing courses, and I'm a course grader with them. And I also have a couple of podcasts that are not related to writing. And I also do voiceovers for commercials and e-learning on the side. So I am very busy.
It sounds very fun too.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sounds sometimes like, I don't know what I want to do or things are unrelated, but they actually do really help each other. Because when I'm doing voiceover, I'm reading scripts and I'm noticing things because, we as writers, we can't turn off that editing side of our brain when we notice things that aren't quite right or don't sound right. And when you read something out loud, it makes it really obvious when there's a grammatical error. So I think that some of these skills that I do are pretty complementary, actually.
I'd imagine, and having to re-record it after there's a mistake that you catch, it probably makes it more
Yeah,
obvious.
yeah, because you're reading it verbatim. So, like, if you stumble because there's no comma where there should be one, or there is a comma and there's, you know what I mean? But it's not always obvious when it's on the paper. And I think that that's a great, I know you haven't asked me anything about that yet, but I think that that's a great tip just in and of itself is if you ever have doubts about what you've written, no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be for a commercial, anything that you write, you can read it out loud and see how it sounds when you're saying it. Does it sound right? Does it make sense when you read it out loud? If it doesn't, then you've got to rewrite it because when you write for the ear, you're almost always going to be more accurate.
Very true. Now, I'd love to hear the story of how you got your first role in UX writing and content design and what that journey looked like.
hmm Yeah. So I'm going to back up just a little bit because I can't, obviously, like with me having started the UX writing position last year, even though technical writing and UX writing do have some similarities with each other, they are very different. So I'll just mention briefly that when I started technical writing, it was the late 90s. And technical writing wasn't like a popular thing. I actually have a degree in it and no one else even knew that there were degrees. I think now there's certificates and other things, but back then in the late 90s, there was not such a thing. I think like I was one of the pioneers in my group, and most of the people I worked with were like, 20 or more years older than me. I was super young, super green, and but ready to learn. And so I actually was very fortunate because when I finished that degree out of college, it was only 2 months later that I was hired. I think a talent acquisition agency was looking for people that were fresh out of college. And I just happened to be one of those lucky folks that got picked, even though I didn't know a lick about the industry. It's the telecommunications industry. You want to talk about technical writing, that is very technical. And I didn't study science and things like that. It wasn't my strong suit to work in STEM fields per se. But anyway, got the bachelor's. There were other people that I was working with, and they were coming from journalism and marketing backgrounds mostly. So technical writing wasn't like a well-known thing in the industry. And so some of the things that I did in my technical writing career were actually content design, content strategy, information architecture, UX writing, you name it. But all of those terms had not been particularly coined at the time. So some of that work was already being done without me even knowing I was doing something special. So there's transitions when people are technical writers and they want to transition to UX writing. it's definitely a thing because back in the day, there were no technical writers. So it was people that had worked for newspapers and done other writing jobs that were picked to do that. So it is possible. Don't ever think that because it's not called this thing that I can't make it work for a new position.
Yeah, very
That's actually
true.
what I ended up doing with the UX. I'm sorry. That's actually what I ended up doing with the UX writing. I'm not sure if I answered your question completely.
And I like to think about it as you have the topic of, writer, and now there's more subtopics within it that are more well defined.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And
exactly. So, you know, we have to be, even though technical writing is technical and UX can be technical, we also have to be creative. So that's why I don't ever poo-poo it when someone says, "Oh, well, I've written landing pages, I've written, email marketing campaigns." Well, we have to be creative when we're writing web copy, app copy, and UX writing. We have to also pull out that creativity. So those things are complementary skills, technical and creative writing, if you will.
very true. And then when we look at your career as a technical writer, moving into UX writer, what are some of the things that you did to ensure longevity in this career? One is it's a hard career to sometimes keep up to date with, as you're always asked to document new things, work on new projects, and you're always learning. Um,
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
have you been able to keep success moving forward within this role?
I, in particular, my personality, although we all make mistakes when we're writing because we're close to our writing, I, in particular, have a personality where I pay a lot of attention to detail. So I think it's helpful if you have that kind of personality, if you develop that skill to always be paying attention to those little nitty gritty details that other people might ignore, especially in this day and age when it's a common thing to text and to use, LOL, RN, all these different, short abbreviations for words, actually being actually being able to understand how to spell everything. I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to. Spelling is not out of style. Like maybe some of the grammar has changed with pronouns and things like that, but spelling is still really a thing. And the way that people use words now, I think to me, it's a little bit lazier, but we have to know the correct terms. So for example, a lot of times people will talk about things and they'll say, well, I'm trying to think of something right now. You might have to cut this part out. But I'm trying to think of this word. It's like on the tip of my tongue that people say. Um, okay. So a lot of people use adverbs, but they've cut off the ly at the end of the word.
Mhm.
So they might say, oh, I looked at that different. No, you looked at it differently. So I'm just saying, like, there's certain words that have come into our vernacular that are commonplace. Things like, oh, I was conversating. That's actually not a word. You are conversing. And so we just have to be aware and pay attention to those kinds of details, as well as the changes in vernacular that we're using and making sure that we're inclusive and that we're not, hurting anyone's feelings with our words. Some of the ways that I have been able to also succeed in this career is just with my daily activities. There's things that I know that I'm supposed to do at work, but there's also things that I can do that go the extra mile, things that are extra that maybe no one else has time to do, but I've noticed it. So I think that whenever you notice things that need to be done, it's helpful to not just point it out or complain about it or notice it, but also if you can, if you have the bandwidth, if you know what to do or who to speak with, to volunteer with helping to address that issue. Maybe we don't have established style guides, or maybe the style guide is lacking certain things where we haven't talked about certain words or certain situations. Well, we can volunteer to update that piece. Or maybe there's something that belongs in the glossary, or maybe there's something else going on with our process that we need to refine. So I think it's very helpful always, really with any position, not just writing, to volunteer to assist to address those issues where there are gaps. And if you don't know how to do it, maybe working with somebody, but just simply saying, oh, this is bad. I noticed this is bad. Isn't this really bad? I hate this. that's not a solution. And that's not going to be the kind of behavior that's going to make you the first person to be promoted or to be asked to do or to have more responsibility with things. I think it's great always to think beyond what you see and not be afraid to create, to share new ideas about things, ways you could do things differently, or when you learn things at a conference or a webinar or whatever, to adapt what you've learned to come back to your team and be able to apply it there and help everyone else.
I really agree with a lot that you said there, especially with being more solution minded than just bringing up problems. If otherwise, then you're the person who brings up problems, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Bringing up the problem or causing the problem, which sometimes could be seen as the same thing.
Yeah, very true. And then in this journey of trying to find a technical writing job, many people watching this video are getting their first job in technical writing or making that transition. And they're asking, how do I pick a technical writing job I enjoy? And it's not an easy process, as technical writing covers so many different industries, and I guess pretty much every industry. And what goes into that process? So how would you help guide them?
Yeah, I would definitely want to brainstorm companies that you admire, you like their products, you like their customer service, things like that. Of course, there's a lot of companies that we never hear of in the public that, employ technical writers, but that's a start. That'll get you going, thinking about the companies that you like and admire and use their products and enjoy. And then also, you just mentioned all these different industries that we're in, thinking about what kind of industries are closest to you, which ones interest you. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I've been in the telecommunications industry for my whole career. Well, do I enjoy telecommunications? Well, maybe not some of that nitty gritty back end technical stuff, but we all have mobile phones, right? We all have these devices. So thinking about different products that you enjoy and what industries are they in? Is it healthcare? Is it retail? What industry is that? That'll also help you narrow down some companies that you might want to enjoy. And then you can look up things, whether it's Glassdoor or other sites where there's people working there that can talk about the culture there, because you're not going to know exactly what it's like to work someplace until you're in the environment, but it's helpful if there's already someone there. Maybe you can network in a Slack channel or on LinkedIn and get a one-on-one with someone for 15, 20 minutes and just talk about what it's like the real, what it's like to work there, not just going to their website. Because if you go to any company's website, they're all going to say it's a fabulous place to work and we love our employees and everything is great. They're all going to say that, right? That's what else would they say on their website? So you want to talk to people if you can, get in those side conversations and find out the real deal. And some people will be very honest with you, especially if they care about the industry and whether they're happy there or not. I think people will be honest about what they think, especially since it's not like going on a major website. I'd also want to ask, if I was interviewing someplace, I would ask them, what would my day-to-day duties entail? Because the job description sometimes does not reflect what you're actually going to be doing. And as writers, we're not spending our whole day writing. We're spending a lot of time gathering information, doing research, talking with, engineers or designers or whomever, or product managers and creative directors. And so how many meetings are there? What are the deadlines? Like, are there like a lot of fast-paced deadlines? Are there a lot of ad hoc things happening and popping up all the time? Because if you can't thrive in a fast-paced environment, then you probably want to go someplace else. It doesn't mean you can't do the work, but all of those things make up how we feel about our jobs. So I think that those are some of the things that go into trying to pick a job, whether it's technical writing or UX, that you would enjoy. And one more thing I forgot to say, how many writers are on the team? A lot of people that are hiring are like, you will be our first writer or you'll be the lead writer. And it's like, okay, well, how many people are on the team? Because that really, really matters. If you're the first writer on the team, obviously nothing has been established, very little has been established about writing guidelines or how you do things. So you also want to ask about how many writers are on the team.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. It's like, and especially understanding like, is this established? Do they understand the role? And if they have one other UX writer that's on the team or technical writer, they may have a much better understanding, to say the least, of what they're hiring for.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't think
yeah.
you. I think a lot of companies try to hire and put out job postings and are not necessarily sure if they want to hire a technical writer or a UX writer, and they're like, I think we need this, and you're taking a risk if you're the first person to be there,
Mhm.
because yeah, they
I
may
have
not know
seen so
either.
many, and I use this term in the most loving way. I'm not degrading anyone. Some of these job descriptions are very schizophrenic. They want to be this and they want to be that and they want to be that. They want a unicorn. They want everything in one. And like you said, they can't figure out which one they want. They don't really know what the job entails, what truly UX writing and truly technical writing is. So I totally agree with that.
And then, there's definitely more challenges that people will face when it comes to technical writing, and especially after getting the job. So talk to me about some of the challenges that technical writers can expect to face, or new technical writers and new UX writers, when they're working at their workplace, or if they're freelance or maybe even remote.
Mhm. I think all of us, all those categories of writers, one thing that we all, I think, can struggle with, I don't think I've ever met a writer that would disagree with what I'm about to say. We all struggle with visibility. We all struggle with making sure that we not only have a seat at the table, but that we are seen and that we are heard, and that the role of content, the role of documentation is valued, and that is not an afterthought. It's not like, okay, last minute, let's bring in the writers. No, 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 no. We need to be there from the beginning or close to the beginning so that we can be a part of that whole process. It's a concept called content first design. And so when we don't have a seat at the table, when we don't have a voice, then now a lot of our power about advocating, because as UX people, as writers, we are advocating for the people that are reading our documents and using our products. We're losing our advocacy because we're not even advocating for ourselves, and our leaders are not necessarily advocating for us. So I think the first issue that you could possibly run into, that you will notice very quickly, is whether or not the culture, the environment, the organization values writers and gives them visibility. So that's the first thing I would just throw a caveat at. Everyone's not the same, but it is a common thing that someone, throughout their career is definitely going to come across. Um, that culture is important because they're valuing the engineers and the designers that are making it look pretty and making it work. The software developers and what have you. You just may not realize how important the content is and how that can make or break the product or the documentation, because it's more than just words. I know a lot of sentiment goes around saying that people don't read anymore, but that's only half true. It depends on what it is. If people need help, if they can't figure something out, they're going to go seek information. They're going to seek content to figure out how to fix this issue that they're having or this problem that they need to solve. So people will read. It's just a matter of how much and what the circumstances. So we are valuable. Don't let people tell you that no one is reading, because they're going to read if they're motivated, if they want to be entertained, if they want to be educated. There are reasons that people still read. And then you just think about any kind of website page, app. If you take the words off of it, then it's useless. You know what I mean? So once again, we need that visibility. We need to advocate for ourselves that we are valuable to our teams and to our organizations. And that's, I think, the primary thing that I would give a caveat to someone coming in, especially if they are like the first or one of the first writers.
100%. I think some things that are sometimes a little bit harder to see is, let's say you have strong participation within the product development cycle, but at the end, there's some executive who steps down. I think everybody wants to believe that they're a writer, and they're like, hey, I could do this. And even though it's gone through like the product manager, the engineer, and the UX writer, they step in right before everything goes live. They're like, well, I think this copy should be changed.
Uh,
And those are things that very much do exist and are sometimes hard to learn, until you're in the role. And yeah, unfortunately, just is the way it is.
Hmm. Yes, and I know there's other sentiments that I've seen going around in the design world that we're all designers or whatever, and it's just like, in a way we design with words, but I would never ever ever say, me personally, I would never say that I could do what UX designers do. I could do what graphic designers do. I could do what product managers do. I can't. You know what I mean? I might be able to help with some certain aspects of what they do, but they're professionals in what they do in their lane, and I'm a professional in my lane. So to just say, oh, well, anyone can design or anyone can do it, it's just like, no, we all can't. And, when something comes a little easier to you when you've been doing it for a while, it's easy to kind of not really think much about it and say, oh well, that's not a big deal, like when you see words on a page and like punctuation is missing or there's a word missing or something's misspelled and it comes to you really quickly, that is a gift, that is a talent. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people struggle with spelling and reading and things like that, but then I struggle in certain areas that they don't. So I think that we should never discount what we do and never just say, oh, well, this is so great. Anyone can do it. Anyone can design. Anyone can write, because we can't. You know what I mean? That's why we need each other. And that's why, again, I'm stressing again, I'm championing and I'm advocating that we are valuable. I just want to make sure that people know that that advocacy is something that goes throughout. Even if you do have a strong UX writing team, content design team, you just never stop advocating, because even when you're not advocating for yourself and your work, you're advocating for the user.
Yeah, very true. And then for a lot of people watching, they're trying to understand. They're like, hey, I'm a technical writer. Hey, I'm an English teacher. A lot of people are coming from many different writing backgrounds and also engineering backgrounds too. And they want to know if UX writing is a career path that they should take. And uh, and they're like, hey, I think I have some of the skills and have some understanding. Maybe they've worked with a UX writer before. What are some signs that it would be a good transition for them, or a transition that could possibly lead to something good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit ago about apps and websites. I'm working with a company that is customer facing, whereas when I was a technical writer, it wasn't customer facing. Everything was private. Nobody had heard of these products before or anything. So if you like customer facing things, I think that that could be, UX writing could be a thing for you. If you like working with apps, if you like playing with apps, if you like writing content that helps users, that delights users, then maybe it could be for you. And I also think it's worth noting that, again, you're going to still spend a lot of time not writing before you can write. It's part of our job title. Some of us, those, content design and UX writing, it's a battle, right? But, and some people will say it's the same, some people will say it's not, but writing is involved. Content strategy, same thing. We're working with words, but we have to like have research. Does the company you're pursuing do UX research? That's something else I forgot to mention in an earlier question, because when I was a technical writer all that time with that company, I didn't have any insight into the way users felt about our documentation. Was it helpful? Was it useful? Did they need more information? I didn't know the ratio of customer support calls due to lack of information, again, saying that users don't read. Well, if they're troubleshooting something, they're going to read, they're going to try to figure it out. So that's one thing that I would consider. And also I would say you have to be curious, you have to be flexible, adaptable. You have to not be put off by collaborating with lots of different types of people. They may be in different time zones. They may have different backgrounds, ethnicities, personalities, different ideas. You have to be willing to do that. You're not just going to be sitting around, be siloed and take your information in a corner and write it and just be by yourself all the time. It's not going to happen when it comes to UX writing / content design. I was a lot more siloed in technical writing for whatever reason. And I work remotely, but that's not the reason, because I originally did not work remotely back in the day, and I still did a lot of work by myself. But I feel like with UX writing and content design, it is super collaborative. And depending on, the culture, the way the organization is set up, there may be a lot of actual meetings. There might be a lot of Slack channels or emails going on. So if you're curious, adaptable, flexible, you like working with other people, and you like apps and websites and the product that you'll be working with, then I think that that might be something that you want to pursue.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And then, we've covered a lot today in this interview. So if there's anything you'd love to leave the audience with, Daree, please, let them know, and we'll go from there.
Sure, sure. So I have I use LinkedIn a lot to stay in touch with the UX community. I do different Slack channels. And something that I see with people, whether transitioning, trying to transition into UX like I did, or they're just, in college, maybe they're doing a boot camp, maybe they're trying to do an internship. A sentiment that I see a lot is that it's really, really hard to break into UX. And I would like to challenge that narrative and that thought that it's just too hard to break into UX. There are gatekeepers for sure. There's gatekeepers in every industry, but I don't think you have to break in. I think you can walk in with your head held high, and you can put aside your imposter syndrome and recognizing the delta between what maybe would be in a typical entry level or whatever position and what you do, and then be open to learning, because we're never done learning. Our industry is always changing. There's always different trends happening. And when you do know something, speak up. Another thing that I would say is that just I'm reiterating that UXers, we are advocates by definition, so we cannot be afraid to speak up for our users and for ourselves and for our industries. The word empathy is thrown around a lot, empathy and empathizing with our users, but we have to empathize also with each other as coworkers and colleagues in this industry, and be inclusive of people that are new or that are trying to break in, and not trying to hold them back or discourage them. When I started technical writing in the 90s, again, the people were not doing technical, they did not have technical writing degrees. It wasn't a thing. They adapted from other backgrounds. You can adapt from technical writing or marketing or whatever into UX. You can do it and learn that delta between maybe what you don't know and what is being sought after with the organization. And then finally, what I would say is that you can always lean on your network, build your network, join these Slack groups, these LinkedIn groups, these Facebook groups, subscribe to UX newsletters so you can be aware of what's happening. Take courses if you need to, learn things that are in a job description that you want to do or that you keep seeing and you maybe don't know how to do them, or you don't have anything in your portfolio to show for it. Meet with mentors. There's lots of different mentoring sites that you can use where people are, working pros can give you guidance for free. And so that's basically it for my advice. And I am speaking about this topic at the UX Writers Conference on February 1st. So if you want to attend that conference, it's really great. It's only 2 days. And I don't know how much it is, but it's one of the more affordable conferences in the UX community. So I'll say that because I attended last year and I think I paid $100 or something like that. So that is also a great resource that I think would be affordable to many people.
And with that said, I want to go ahead and make sure that I put a link to that in the description below this video. So if you're watching this video, make sure to check the description below. There'll also be a link to Daree's LinkedIn profile. So if you want to connect with her, you can connect with her there. And that way we can all stay in touch and build our community. And there we have it. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate the time that you spent with us and all the great advice that you were able to give us about your career journey and really walking us through it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you for seeking me out because, I didn't really think it was that, great, but apparently it is. And if I can help anybody, just reach out, let me know.